Welcome to Soul Steps with Dr. Ren. I'm your heart-to-heart walking companion. These short, soulful reflections come straight from my morning devotion walks. Think of it as a chat with your bestie that feeds your mind and spirit. Walk with me or just listen and get ready to feel uplifted, informed, and inspired. Good morning, friends. Happy Tuesday. Oh, it's cold today. Yeah, it's feeling pretty chilly out here. And I've been up. I woke up extra early today because I have a sty on my eye. I have a sty on my eye. My dad used to get styes all the time. And so I've been really thinking about him. I'm thinking about what he would say. He would say, get yourself a tea bag. Put a tea bag on your eye. So that's what I did. I got up last night, I think it was 3 a.m. 2:30, could have been 2:30. It was about 2:30. And heated up some water, soaked the tea bag in there for a little bit. Put it on my eye. Can't tell yet. It's pretty gnarly and it hurts every time I blink. So yeah, that's fun. Not. And I'm out late this morning in part because I went back to sleep around, 3:30. I was gonna just get up, but I felt like I could go back to sleep. So I did. Good morning. Honestly, I don't like being up with all these other people. You know I don't. And I think the sun is probably going to be up soon too. But I went back to sleep, which was a miracle. That rarely happens. So I must have been very tired. Needed some rest. Yeah. It's wild. Thanksgiving's coming up next week. It doesn't even feel like it. I don't understand how is it already Thanksgiving. Time is really passing. So I have a couple things I really have a word from yesterday that I shared with a few people, but I'm gonna go off on it again today because I think it's really about changing from the inside out. And in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be finishing my devotional book called Before I Speak, which is the first of several books in the Inside Out devotional series that I will be writing. So it's a lot of editing that I have left to do. Got to add some more stories. The scriptures are all done. Okay, slow down, slow your roll, homie. But the actual devotional stories, I've got some basics in there, but I'm going through them again and making sure that they're written well. And then I'll have to do layout. So I'm going to have to go into prayer to get this through it's like a self-imposed deadline to write a second book before the book signing that was originally for my first book. But I think it's good. I don't think I would have kind of moved forward without a deadline. So, change. So, in the Christian tradition, we have a word called sanctification. I should look up the origin for you, but basically, definition of sanctification is a lifelong process by which we become more and more like the person we follow, Jesus, in every aspect of our life. It's a work that's it's a lifelong process, and there's two parts to it. The first is an inner part. The second is an outer part. I wrote a little piece on this and put it on a private social media page, not my public one, my private one. And so the transformation is the first part, being transformed. That happens on the inside. That's when your heart starts to change. Like, let me give you some personal examples. I have an orientation towards being controlling in my personality. We can go on and on about how I got that way, but it's really not relevant. But I feel calmer when I'm in control. I prefer to be in control. Let me use some gentle, self-compassionate talk towards myself. I prefer to be in control. Who doesn't? Who doesn't want to be in control? I prefer to be in control, and I used to prefer to be in control so much that I was quite insensitive to the preferences of others. So whether or not they wanted to exercise some input was irrelevant to my preference. And so you can imagine that this caused some friction in my most intimate relationships. Now, outside of relationships, I was just a great leader. Someone that took charge, wasn't afraid to take control and get into situations and take responsibility for the outcome. It was a highly rewarded personality trait. And recently I was reminded about that old manifestation of my preference and some not so nice characterizations of the way in which people experience me. And at some point, I underwent a transformation and still am. It's a daily practice. But at some point I went through a dramatic transformation in my heart where I exchanged that preference for being in control of all things at all times in all ways to having a heart that was willing to give up control. And, the relationship that I had in the human realm that inspired me to change in my heart was my husband. So in my wedding vows, I don't have them all memorized, but one of the things that I wrote was, I give up my right to be right, even when I am right. Which is, of course, a lot of the time. But I said that vow as a promise that I was going to, to give up your right to be right even when you are right. That was maybe the best part of my vows. I gotta find the rest of them, see what other gems are in there. But that was a very big one. In fact, my husband made me sign the little card in front of our pastor with my vows written on it. It's kind of cute. But yeah, to be able to give up that control, oftentimes my sense of self-entitlement to control was based off of my sense of righteousness. And if I felt I was right at a situation, then that gave me free will, free carte blanche to take control. I had all kinds of justifications worked out. That was one of them. But I loved my husband so much that, plus I knew it was sort of wrong. And I knew it was only because I didn't really trust anybody but myself. And I barely trusted myself. And so I said, that was like my heart had an intention to go in a different direction, even though I was still walking very much in control. So that's transformation. The second part of change is confirmation. So confirmation, being conformed. So being conformed is what happens on the outside, what your life looks like on the outside. So an example of the confirmation process would be, I've got like a million examples of times where I would be inclined to take control, but actually exercised collaboration or deferment. Let me think of a good example. Like a lot of ones. There's a lot of ones at work too, which is especially hard because it's like my job to be in charge. I'm like in charge of stuff at work. And although there's parts of my job that like doing it well requires collaboration, like being a psychiatrist clinically speaking, I'm not controlling in that role because that's not what excellence requires of me. So my value of excellence will supersede my need for control. In fact, I very intentionally, pretty much like I'm there to serve the patient. So there's no realm for ego there. It's not even like, it doesn't even come into the storyline. But the administrative aspects of work, where I was in charge of others, it was my job to be in control. So I had to learn how to redefine leadership, which, wasn't that hard because I think a lot of the military values about teamwork include collaboration, but there would be this times where I knew that I could have done something differently based off of what someone else wanted, but instead I did it my way. I did it my way because I prefer to do it my way, because I think my way is better. And, so I've grown, I've been conformed to be more flexible around that aspect. How have I done it? Through many hours of personal work in individual and couples therapy, very much facilitated by the process of self-reflection, of actual collaboration on change, and through the power of the Holy Spirit, through prayer, fasting, self-control, meditation, corrective emotional experiences. It's been a big process. So the analogy that I use for this process of change is a very common one in scripture, and that is of the potter and the clay. And I'm not a potter, never taken a pottery class, but I love pottery. And my friend and her husband have a company called Z Pots, and they make the most inspired dishware, which is basically what we use every single day in our house. Plates and cups and bowls, little trinket containers, serving trays. I love everything that they make. And, I've seen her pictures and I've watched videos of pottery making. So that's my, it's really through admiration. But, when red clay, I'm in Georgia, and you can make clay out of dirt here in Georgia. We got something called red clay. You basically take dirt and you form it into clay. You've got to transform it in order for it to be conformed. You can't just put the dirt on the potter's wheel. That would be quite messy. You've got to put it in water. That's actually the only part I know. There might be some other things you have to do, but there's something about water, filtering, something like that. And then you form the clay. Now it's been transformed, okay, from dirt into a ball of workable product. And you have to have the right amount of water, the right consistency, because if the clay is not the right consistency, it can't be worked. That's transformation. It happens on the inside. It's something about the character or nature of the clay that needs to change in order for it to be pliable. Okay? So that's the inside work. And you can change on the inside and not really change on the outside. I still say so many times, I'm getting better. It's kind of a running joke between my husband and I when some area of growth pops up, like being controlling, or that's the main one that pops up, some other ones, and I'll say, but I'm getting better, you know. And so it's a lifelong process. So that's transformation. So but I'm changed really on the inside, because my heart, my desires, the things that I want is to be collaborative all the time, and to only take control when invited, or when the situation demands it. To never act in a controlling way out of ego. If you ask me any day of the week, that is my heart's desire. So my heart has been transformed. But on the outside, there's still times when one or more areas of my life have not been conformed. Oh, I forgot. Listen, my 15-minute crew, y'all are done. It's been 16 and a half minutes, so congratulations to you. But don't hang up, because I got a few more things. So the confirmation process happens when you take the clay and you put it on the potter's wheel. That's when the clay completely surrenders to the work of the potter and is conformed. It is shapen, it is molden. Now, it has a shape already, but it's going to be transformed, and the process requires some addition, some subtraction, some thinning, some thickening. It's not, you know, it's a process. It's a process. It doesn't always look pretty. And sometimes you're wondering, what is that going to be? If you just watch some videos of a potter at work, watch them work, and maybe just ask yourself, like, at what point do you see the end? Like, if someone's making a bowl, what point do you know, oh, that's a bowl, like its final shape, or a vase? It's a process. And the confirmation process for us in our lives happens through spiritual disciplines and through life circumstances. Those are the primary ways in which we're conformed. A life circumstance will change you. A life circumstance will force you into some different positions. It may put your back up against the wall. It may cause you to have to rely on somebody else when you don't want to. Like when I was 20 years old and I was incapacitated in a car accident. And every day thereafter, dang it, I've been trying not to forget who was Paul and who was Peter. But it was Paul who was the one who wrestled with God and got that wound on his hip. I think it was, yeah. Confusing myself. Paul, because I remember thinking, oh yeah, Saul of Tarsus turned into Paul, but the Lord still had to give him a little nudge. The Lord had to give him a little permanent reminder so he would stay humble. And I've always felt like kinship with Paul on account of that. The Lord has, allowed for me to remain paralyzed. I would prefer not to be paralyzed, but the Lord has allowed that, and it does keep me humble, because there's some times where I can't open up a jar because it's too hard for me to open with one hand, or there's times I'll need help getting dressed. I do not prefer to ask for help in any way, shape, or form. But not asking for help feeds into the myth of self-reliance, which perpetuates control. So, I mean, it's kind of a brilliant solution, although I still would not prefer it, that God would allow me to have this permanent limitation, even though I'm still a very capable human being, highly over-functioning in many ways. But there are many ways where I am reminded almost every day about my need for help. And that is a reminder for me to connect with my reliance on God for all things, and it keeps me humble. So life circumstances can conform you. You can also be conformed by spiritual disciplines, by reading scriptures, reading about guidance on wisdom, seeking wise counsel, fasting and prayer, the spiritual disciplines of self-control. These are making your natural inclinations changing, so that, like, at the end of the day, you are different. Like tithing. I was talking yesterday about the Spirit's call for me to be divinely generous, which at least I'm not throwing up over the thought of it today. Although I was like, this morning, I was like, oh, I have something, it's going to cost a lot of money tomorrow. And I was like, thinking, I'm not going to tip them because they're already set their rates, and, you know, that's a lot of money anyway. And I have this other bill I have to pay. And the Spirit said, you're not going to tip them just because it's, you know, a large ticket. You tipped them last time. Why are you so stingy? So I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. You know, so the spiritual disciplines help you to conform your natural inclinations so that you look more and more holy in your outward life. And if you're not a Jesus follower, that's okay. You can still have some understanding of, you've got some goal of some values that you are hoping to epitomize in your life. Maybe you just only motivated to change because of the consequences of staying the way that you are negative. So we're about to go on this really busy road, and I don't like it talking over the car. So I'm going to wrap it up there. That's your word for today about change from the inside out. The transformation process that happens internally in your heart, your mind, your will, and your emotions, and the confirmation process that happens externally through life circumstances, experiences, and through active participation in spiritual disciplines. Remember to move your body with love and intention today. Please pray for my eye, because it's really distracting me, and it's uncomfortable. And also remember that I love you. Okay, bye.